So, okay, so I don't look like I'm slumping completely.
Love you, bye.
He said his word.
And that's it.
Yeah, you got something, and that was it. Oh, Candace wrong. So I started reading more.
And Lillian sends her love. I told her there was a new Owen, and
Yep. In December there's a new one.
that it was coming out.
Yep.
So yes.
Yep. Send her my love.
Tell Charlie hi.
I will.
If you're still with him. Well, you don't know.
That's a great quality.
So, oh my.
I started reading Parker Pine, and he reminds me of a lighter or beginning version of Aaron Graff. I don't know if that's where Block actually got the idea, but he reminds me of a slightly less Machiavellian Aaron Graff.
That's a good idea. Photo.
Oh,
Not off. I just muted it.
airplane mode. So, yeah.
I can't have it in front of me. I'll be tempted to play my mice game.
Be calm. Keep breathing.
That's
These are
really
your-
not my strong suit, so we'll
I
work
know.
with it.
These are our friends. Or if they're assassins, they're good at what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, fortunately, these are a little bit more soft and squishy. You're more worried necessarily about what's living in them than you are with their comfort.
Just a gem, isn't she?
With that thought, we're going to say, you're okay to go.
And apparently, we're supposed to start this shindig. Hi, I'm Fran Fuller. I'm the fan guest of honor, so I get to be fans of all y'all. And with me up here are J.B. Dickey, who owned Seattle Mystery Bookshop, and Amber Miner, who kept us alive. No, really, she did all our social media stuff until she got tired of it and started doing other things. And she can talk about Agatha Christie, for days. Days. She has. She really has. We have stories and we have memories of Seattle Mystery Bookshop, and we loved it and we miss it, kind of. And running an indie shop is challenging.
We also dream about it.
It's true. It's true. It's a death in the family, and that's how we are. Now, we'd like to start off asking if you have any questions for us about indie bookstores, about crazy signings, about anything at all, and then if you don't, we'll just wing it.
I have one for authors. Give us advice about what you like best about mystery writing, as far as things you like, and what you like least about things that you read.
Okay, the question is, what did we like best about mystery writing, and what did we like least for authors? Grammar is really good. It is. I can read. JB read the hard-boiled and the noir. Amber did lots of things, yes, and we don't talk about some of them, but children's and golden age. And then I was kind of in the middle of everything and nothing. So I'm a Gemini. I had my finger in lots of little pies, but I didn't. So when I say grammar, I'm not exaggerating. I got arcs from people. I couldn't read.
Says the former English teacher.
Fair, fair.
Another thing you have to realize is anyone, most likely, who is opening a bookstore is widely read. So they're going to be bored quickly by something that is like everything else they've ever read. So if you want to draw in a bookseller, you better be inventive. And that may be in setting, it might be the type of character, it might be the plot, but it's got to be something they've never seen before if you really want to dazzle them, which then gets them selling your book. Mm-hmm. Because what it really comes down to with an independent bookstore is hand selling. Mm-hmm. So be good.
It's the same thing with like the golden ages and that kind of stuff. If you say that this is like an Agatha Christie novel, it best be like an Agatha Christie novel. Because if you have somebody who, like me, specializes in the golden age and you say that it's, you know, like a Mary Roberts Reinhardt or something like that, it should be like that, but it should be more than the root of where it comes from. That you can, there's certain, you have certain tropes that you read in these books, but you want to expand them just a little farther. And if you do that over a course of a series of a book, you can push out and get where you want to go, but you might have to be just a little patient. Otherwise, you're again going to lose it because there's a number of them that, you know, I was given, hey, this is really cool, like Agatha Christie, and I'm like, it really isn't. And that, again, is another way to lose a bookseller when you have to read them.
Also being a jerk. Sorry, it's true. If you come in and you're pushy with your book, you've written it, it could be wonderful, but if you're rude to us, we got no time for you. And there are a lot of books out there, as you well know. So we have to pick and choose carefully. We had to. JP and I don't know. We talked, well, all three of us, we talked about how we didn't understand how a general bookstore could figure out what to stock, because there are so many mysteries out there, and we had to choose what we thought we could handle, and that left a lot of people out. So if you're a jerk,
There was a point toward the end of the shop's life, and this is 7 years ago. So print on demand, yes, 7 years.
No.
Yeah. Print on demand was really ramping up at that point, and people would come in saying, I just published a book, when can I have a signing? And it just doesn't work like that. At least it didn't work for us as a small shop. So, yeah, as Fran said, don't be pushy and presumptive and
Rude.
yeah. It takes a little, you're asking the bookseller to do quite a bit of stuff for you. So you have to then be willing to do the work on your end. Mm-hmm. And still, we had major authors in the shop and would maybe sell one or two books. Something that shop founder Bill Farley used to always say to first-time author is don't give away all of your author copies. I don't know if publishers still do this, but they used to send a carton or 2 cartons of books as your author copies. Well, if you're giving those all away to your family and friends, they're not coming in to buy your book, and they're your natural...
Do not hesitate to prey upon your friends and family.
Yeah. So don't sell short your reading crew.
Seriously, if they love you as a person, they'll buy your book to support you. It's up to you to be good so that they don't regret it and won't buy another one.
Another question?
What changes did you see over time from readers in terms of what sorts of questions they were asking, how open they were to hand selling?
What kinds of changes did we see for the readers and how we hand sold to people as time goes on? Because everything changes. That's sad, but it's true.
I just stuck the book in their hand and said, you should buy this. It really wasn't, it really didn't change. If I loved a book, I would pitch it to, depending upon, of course, who was coming in and out of the shop and the reading tastes that I knew. But even then, there were some of them, like Ernie Klein's Ready Player One, before it hit. I put that in everybody's hand and said, you have to read this. This is one of the best books that I've read in a very long time. And we sold them, and it was actually a buddy of his that was walking by, happened to see his title in our window, texted him a picture, and that's how we got Ernie Klein into the shop. But it was all kinds of stuff. I would always just, if it was a good book, you have to buy it. That's just it. That's how I sold it.
There was a lot of trust me, just trust me, but to get people to trust you, you have to listen to what they want. Listen to, okay, what do you read? What are your hobbies? What do you like? And then we can find, something that will appeal. I'm not going to give you Don Winslow if you're into Diane Mott Davidson. Well, maybe not. But, we listened hard, and the readers themselves didn't change that much.
Another thing, we were always very honest if we didn't like a book. So it's a matter of building up the trust with the readers so that they'll go out on a limb, as Amber said, with something that they may not have. Or if we've raved about a book and we used to do a quarterly newsletter, they trust you after a while, and it's a very fragile thing. But for me, I think the biggest notice in changing what people were reading was the uptick in mystery horror and steampunk. Toward the end of the shop's life, that was really starting to come up and was quite a change. So,
Fantasy mysteries
yeah.
are and still are really huge. I have a lot of those. We even found somebody who'd buy the board mysteries, so that was actually pretty cool.
We found that, and this is something I've really enjoyed, is the smushing of different subgenres together, merging them into something different, but still relatable. Okay, it's like the Dresden Files, but it's got, and that blurring of the line has been a lot of fun. Even now that we're not
There was a
selling.
question back there. Yeah.
Do you think it would, the Seattle Mystery Bookshop would thrive if it were resurrected in a different venue? Because I know that where you were, after the cruise ships didn't come in and blah, 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 it became increasingly more difficult to get the volume you needed.
You want me to take that?
Absolutely. I think it would do fantastic if it had a better foot traffic. I think that was really what most of the problem was, is a lot of us, we didn't get seen by a lot of people, but I think absolutely with the boom of new bookstores and stuff coming around, that if it was in a easier, accessible area, yeah, absolutely, I think it would be fantastic.
I have to say no. And the reason I would say, though, foot traffic was certainly a problem.
And parking.
And parking. And there was always the sense that it was dirty and dangerous in Pioneer Square. And now I say that's probably true. The early years of the shop, not so much. But yes, parking was always a problem. But if we had not shut the shop when we did, COVID would have killed us off. And I say that because of signings. What really kept us going was signed books. And two things started to happen. One was that we were no longer getting signings with the big name authors. They were going to the big stores that carried a publisher's entire selection. And I always likened it to a university football team pulls in the money that pays for the little sports. And it was the big authors who allowed us to have the beginning authors and the mid-list authors. So when we no longer had those big authors coming in, and people would come in to see that author, but they buy this and this and this and this. So that hurt all authors. The other thing that happened was that we had a very dedicated slew of collectors who were after signed books, and if the book wasn't signed, they'd get it somewhere else. And those people started retiring, and they started saying, do you want to buy my collection? And we just no longer had the clientele that even if we had been getting the signings, I don't think the books would have sold so well. And I don't know, I don't have anyone to ask, but I don't know if book signings as a big deal when the shop was healthy have come back.
You'd have to ask the people at Third Place, I guess.
Yeah, but the thing about Third Place is it's the general store.
Yeah.
So if this mystery author doesn't sell, then maybe that memoir author sells. A specialty shop is a completely different thing because that's all you're selling.
Yeah.
See, I still disagree. I think we would have been okay through COVID because I order books online from Biblio all the time. I love collecting Agatha Christie and all the kind of stuff. And I have to say that...
How many did you just buy in the book room?
Oh, yeah, I bought like 30.
She's not kidding.
But we ship better than anybody else that I've ever seen on Biblio. And I buy from a wide range, and nobody shipped the way we did. And not nearly as well in having books arrive intact, unbumped, unjammed. I think that when we left, that was one of the biggest things we heard was, I really miss being able to get books and know that they're going to be good, that they're going to be okay when they get to me. That we had a gal mailman who decided to stick her package on top of her mailbox in the rain, and it was just soaked, and she thought it was absolutely ruined. And she opened it up, and it was perfectly fine.
Not when we wrapped it, it's fine.
Yeah, it was in perfect preservation, and I think that would have carried us through, that the signings did help, and the signings did do a lot of boosting, but I think that if we were in a place where people could see us better, combined with the way we ship in the new Biblio, in the new shipping world, I think that it would have won out in the end, especially knowing now what I didn't know then, being able to publicize, this is how it looks, this is how it ships. I think it would have been fine.
And the other thing is a lot of survival does rest on author support. Because they weren't sending us big authors, it became a problem. But some big authors stayed with us. And there was a time when if we didn't have Jane Ann Krantz, we would have been so screwed. But
One, on that line, there was a mystery bookshop somewhere in LA, and I think it may have just been the Los Angeles Mystery Bookshop, something like that. Was it? I don't remember, but
Santa Monica.
we happened to have in a day or two after they announced they were closing, a big LA author, and he was bemoaning the fact that they never asked for help. Why didn't they say something? So I wrote a letter to 3 different big-name authors who will remain unnamed and said, okay, if you're so aghast that they never said anything, here I am saying something. What are you willing to do to make sure that these small, independent, specialty mystery shops stay in business? Never heard from any of them.
So yeah, author support of indies and your shopping at indies. I mean, yeah, see, we would never deal with Amazon back in the day. Nowadays, we'd have to. But, because you change, things change, publishing changes, we'd have a lot more indie authors. But you've got to support, yeah, you can get it cheaper from Amazon, but support the locals, always.
Another question?
So speaking of locals, what's your go-to local bookstore now in the Seattle area?
I can't answer that.
I happen to live within walking distance of Ravenna, Third Place. And so I can just walk over the hill, and they're very good about if so-and-so has a new book coming out and they're going to be signed copies from the publisher, they'll set aside one of those for me. I'm spoiled that way. I also get a dog walk out of it.
I'm a bumblebee. I go to whatever bookshops in Fran. My husband and I, we wander all over the place, and so we hit, basically, we see an indie bookshop, I'm there, and I'm buying something. Always. It's what I do.
And I'm in New Mexico now, so when I want a specialty mystery, I order it from Organic Books because that's owned by Steve Brewer, who's an author. And it's a wonderful shop. If you ever get to Albuquerque, it's a fabulous shop. But if I want something specifically signed that I know Steve can't get, I order from Murder by the Book.
Or I send her a copy.
He does.
Question?
Yes, what do you think the impact of electronic readers and e-books has been on bookstores and just paper books as a whole?
The question is, what impact have ebooks and electronic readers had on bookstores?
I think that in the beginning, it was huge. It was, everybody wanted to be readers. And they still are good for a point, because you can read them on your phone and stuff. I mean, I have the library app that has ebooks on it when I can't get a hold of stuff. I think that for some people, it's convenience, because if you travel a lot, you can have all kinds of books with you all at the same time, because they don't weigh that much. But I think that I don't think it's quite as big as it was. That for, you can read them on your phone and that kind of stuff, and that will always be there, and that's good for the author, and that's good for like libraries and stuff. But honestly, we sold the Kobos and we sold the ebooks, and it was a negligible part of any of our sales. That it really didn't do a whole much.
I couldn't even remember the name of the reader we did sell, Kobo. Thank you.
There's the part of the reason I'm up here is I'm still keeping my fingers on the pulse of the mystery world. And there's coming a gradual re-emergence of the pleasure of holding a book, of the smell of a book, of knowing where you are in the book. And especially if you do like historical things or strange things that have maps, they're better in a book. I'm sorry, they just are. And people are coming to remember the joy of it. But electronic is still a big deal.
I think it mirrors, in a way, what's happened with vinyl records. All of a sudden, vinyl records are the hot deal. And I'm old enough that I still have all of my vinyl records. I would not give them up. When I got to graduate school, in fact, one of my professors was Frank Okada, the brother of John Okada. And Frank liked to smoke cigars. Frank had a huge collection of jazz records, and he'd let me take as many as I wanted to record them on cassette, which there again ages me. And his record smelled so good because the cardboard had the cigar smell, and there was just something very rich and earthy that you certainly don't get out of a CD. So I think that's part of the reason books are coming back. It's the same kind of thing as bookstores. Keep hearing about more and more indie bookstores opening. So yeah, I think Fran's absolutely right that there is a feeling or an urge to get back involved with the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that you read a screen differently than you read a book. I know I do. I don't retain what I read tablet, because that would be crazy. Well, I could, but it would be bad. But you can't, I don't learn, I don't read the same way off of the screen, and I don't remember. And I think that that's another thing that people are remembering is it's not the same.
Yeah, so,
Next question. Candace?
Is it true that book collecting has really died? That there really aren't? Do you know anything about that?
is it true that book collecting has really died? God, I hope not. My kids are going to inherit a ton of signed books.
I have a couple of news searches on my phone about books and book collecting. And I keep seeing things about big expensive books selling, one-of-a-kind books selling. So there certainly must be people who are still buying and collecting, just like there are people who still buy and collect. God, the museum in my hometown in Kansas City was actually selling one of their Monets. But I don't know on a very local level what it's like. I can say from doing our monthly newszine, at the end of the month, I look and see who's coming to sign in the Puget Sound area. And there are an awful lot of authors who go to Portland, but they don't come up here. Now, I'm just looking at mystery crime writers. And I don't know if that's the effect of us not being there to draw the signings up. But I don't know then how that plays into local collectors. I don't know that the publishers are still sending out signed copies or copies with, the sheet bound in, the tipped in sheets.
Yeah.
Are they?
They are.
Have they slacked off, or is it still the same? Are they doing it more because it's cheaper than sending authors out?
I see them quite a bit. I think that it got bigger during COVID because people, they couldn't send the authors out and people couldn't gather to get their books signed or that kind of stuff. That I see a lot more tipped in pages, but I see a lot more special tipped in pages, which is not something that they did quite as much before. So 6 or 1/2 dozen of the other.
Yeah, we're all out of it enough that we can only give you anecdotes.
I can tell you I still collect.
See, Lucinda, you had a question?
Yeah, when you were little, did you want to grow up and be a bookseller? How did you get into where you work?
And I think I can safely say for all of us, and probably all of you, we were readers first. From the very beginning, just give me a book, any book, and then later on, well, give me Nancy Drew, give me the Hardy Boys, give me the Bobbsey Twins, and then we expanded out. Did we want to be booksellers? Doesn't everyone? But I don't think that was ever our direct path.
Well, I collected comic books from, 4th grade, 5th grade? And so that was one of the ways I got into words, because I'd ask Mom, what does this mean? And she'd say, look it up. That was one of the starts of my collecting, and I've always been a collector. Now, in college, I took, one of my English electives was the detective in literature. So they got me back into reading crime and mystery. And then one day I was walking around with a friend down in Pioneer Square going to galleries, and I saw a sign in a window, coming soon, Seattle Mystery Bookshop. So the next week I wandered in, and a gentleman, Bill Farley, was getting ready to shelve his initial order of paperbacks from Pacific Pipeline, which is a wholesaler that maybe Candace and no one else here is going to remember, not even these two.
No, I don't.
So I kind of fell into it by accident because I needed a part-time job at the time, and it just absorbed me. So I could not say that I ever thought or wanted to be know, as a kid, you want to be what, a fireman or an astronaut or a bookseller? No, I wouldn't say that.
I did.
See why we had such a great crew? We're so very opposite in so many things, but our love of books overlaps it all. And mysteries give us mysteries. So, but anyway, yeah, she wanted to be a bookseller.
And was stunned on the day after JB met me, he gave me keys to the shop, and I'm like, I know I'm honest, dude, but do you know that I'm honest? It was a very weird interview.
Was there an interview?
You asked what I read. That was pretty much the extent of it, and if I'd get along with her.
Yeah. Well,
Like a house on fire, by the way.
we had a lot of people who'd come in and ask, are you hiring? Some people just needed it for the sheets for unemployment. But then JB would kick back. Anybody who's been to the shop knows this. He kicks back, kicks his feet up, crosses his arms, and
Who
says,
do you read?
and it's astonishing how many people would say Proust or Chaucer, and we're going, no, wait, see, here's the problem, because that's the first thing he asked me. And I went off on Jonathan Kellerman and, oh God, I don't remember, Diane Mott Davidson and, Rennie Airth. And Rennie Airth is out of the mainstream enough for him to take me seriously.
He asked me where I started reading, and when I told him I read the entire Nancy Drew canon, he was like, oh, that's time commitment. And then we went from there, and I was also a shopper there before, because I was volunteering up at the Seattle courthouse. And so I'd come down there on my lunch, and that's how I found Nancy Atherton and a bunch of other people. He's like, oh, so you actually read these. All right.
Yeah. So,
Another question. Yes?
Gigi.
So I'm curious to know if you have any surprising stories from bookselling, like things that really surprised you that you never would have thought about bookselling, the type of thing we read in a book and never believe it if we read in fiction, and it's true.
Well, somebody brought a wolf.
Somebody tried to hex us once.
Yeah.
Not kidding. It was really weird.
No. Let's see. What else strange and wonderful? When we were in the big shop, because the shop moved a couple of times, when we were in the big shop, JB and I discovered it was haunted.
That was a little shop.
We had a ghost in the
That's
original smaller shop, and one of our this is before they were working there. One of my colleagues came back up front. I wasn't there that day, and asked the other woman working if the guy back at the back had been helped, and Tammy replied that there wasn't anyone in the shop, and Aaron described him as being in a long overcoat and wearing a funny kind of round-shaped hat. She didn't know the term for a bowler. Sometime later, a guy came in who said his grandfather or great-grandfather, had a barber shop. We were sort of subterranean underneath the southwest corner of 2nd and Cherry. And it used to be arrayed differently. There used to be a different entrance and an exit up onto 2nd and so forth. But at the time of the, I want to say 1894 Expo or something like that, this guy had a picture that of his grandfather's shop, tiled barber chairs, stairs down into sauna or a spa, and here's a picture of him, and it was a guy standing there in a long overcoat holding a bowler hat.
So,
Now, the building itself was well known for having a ghost up on 6 or 7 that people would see. And she was dressed in, I don't know, 1880s, 1890s clothes.
Traditional
Yeah.
great lady.
But yeah, Pioneer Square being the oldest area of Seattle, there are many buildings that have lots of ghost stories. One of the most haunted places in Seattle, as far as I know, is the J&M Cafe, where people have had empty kegs thrown at them. So yeah, that was our ghost story.
No gargoyles, sorry.
One I can say is that when we were in the larger space, one of our longtime customers, Jean, there was a big empty spot on the floor and back, and she said, "Oh, can I please be the body outline?" So we had her lay down on the floor. She had a long blonde ponytail.
And she's 6 foot tall.
Yeah, and
And
so
skinny.
we did a body outline back there, and people always thought that the body had a hatchet in the head because of the thing. No, it's just the ponytail. But sometime later, she had a first date with a guy in the shop because she figured it was a Sunday. I was there, I think, by myself. And they met and kind of wandered around. She thought she'd feel safe not knowing what this guy was really like. And eventually they got married.
And they
So-
wanted to have it at the shop, but they had too many people. So, yes.
So I'm Leslie Butowitz, and I miss you all.
Hello, Leslie.
I love your books.
Thank you. I miss you all so much. You were so supportive, so wonderful, especially when my first book came out. Maybe that exposition you were thinking of was probably the 1907 Yukon expedition.
It could have been. There, in the picture, there was a calendar on the wall, and it was very hard. At that time, there wasn't that much computer photography manipulation to be able to see. I would imagine. He gave us that picture. I probably still have that.
Yes,
I don't
you
know.
do.
I don't, someplace in the basement.
Because at the end, when that last couple of days when we were just packing up the shop to close it, a lot of things got shuffled and shoved, and he's still finding treasures and things.
So I have a question for Amber. You used to write a column in the newsletter, I think it might have been when you had a physical newsletter, called The 52 Weeks of Agatha Christie, and I've always thought that that would have been a really good book. Have you considered writing that as a book?
The question is, Amber had a blog called The 52 Weeks with Christie, which was phenomenal. And had she considered making it into a book like we asked her to?
I didn't think that anybody would be really that interested in my take on Christie. I mean, I did put Christie and Twerky and Aerosmith together, so I wasn't sure if anybody would see the connections beyond us, but I could. We also thought that I could get a PhD in Christie like John Curran did, which would be fantastic.
Yeah, she really knows her Christie. And if it's still around, okay,
I'm actually still doing it. If you look up my 52 Weeks with Christie, it's actually still on the, I still write it. It's a little bit more true crime focused these days, just because. I
Prussian
needed
blue, don't
something a
ask.
little- I needed something a little different to write about. But yeah, it's still around, and I tend to link it to, like From Crooked House and Child Killers. Back in the day, most of them are all turn of the century because I really don't want actual murderers showing up at my house. So it's usually turn of the century, but yeah, it's like Child Killers, like Crooked House from Agatha Christie, or like Pale Horse. Why did they not treat the people with Prussian blue from? I won't go into it, but why
Ask
they
her.
why they didn't treat the people with Prussian blue, because that was the antidote. Or this kind of stuff, random questions that I come up with as I'm reading or going through, or.
And the NSA is following her very closely.
Yeah, when they came up, when the targeted ads came up with the how to make a homemade Geiger counter. My husband was like, dude, please, come on, stop looking at these things.
But as an homage, and if you're still interested in Seattle Mystery Bookshop, we do a monthly newsletter. We review books still, and just an hour and a half ago, we set up, or will have set up, a Facebook link. Give us some time. We need to get it really live. Facebook is weird. But we'll start posting on that, our newsletters and new things that are coming up and people that we've run into and pictures and stuff. So yeah, we want a lot of pictures, by the way.
The newsing posts on the first of each month. We don't send out any kind of a notice. You got to go out and find it, but it's still seattlemystery.com.
I'm taking pictures. Well,
Next question? Yes?
Given your experience, what's your prediction for United States booksellers going forward?
we're going to take over the world.
Future's so bright, you gotta wear sunglasses.
Yeah.
I have no idea. No, I am so far out of the world of publishing and the economics of bookselling that I haven't got the faintest idea. Back when we got into a huge tangle with a bunch of people over why we wouldn't carry Thomas and Mercer books, which was the Amazon imprint.
And we'd have to now.
We'll fight about that later.
Okay.
But, the reason we didn't then was that they did not discount. So booksellers survive, pay the rent, pay their so-called employees through the discount that they get from the publishers and so forth. If Amazon was not going to give a discount, they did not wholesale, we would have had to have bought the books at the same price anyone else could. So the only way to get a profit would be to tack on and sell them for more than Amazon sells them. And that just wasn't reasonable. So
One of the problems with booksellers, with bookselling, is in any other business, if you need to, you can raise the price. But as a bookseller, the price is set by the publisher. We're stuck with it. I mean, we could add more and do our own labels, but why would you buy those? So bookselling needs also the support of book publishers. You got to give us the discount. You got to have dedicated crazy people who will work for next to nothing and sign books. But yeah, it's a strange business, but that makes us devious and crafty and well-read, and that's important. We're open to new ideas. And I'm talking about every bookseller now, not just mystery. And we will take over the world. It's just going to take some time, and we're broke.
One thing that I could say from the 6 years since we closed the shop is I go into a bookstore now, I go into Ravenna, and I don't know what I'm looking for because I don't know the authors' names anymore. I don't know what the covers look like. There are all these new authors doing stuff, and unless I get an author who I started hearing a lot about, so I started buying him, and Fran has finally tripped over to him, is S.A. Cosby. But I would not have found him without some kind of a bump from the reviews and so forth. If I go on the internet and search for given authors' names, I can find out if they've got something new coming. But it's not like when we had the shop and we got the catalogs and could look through them and go, ooh, so-and-so has a new book coming out, or ooh, this looks really good. So I'm sure we're missing tons of stuff that we would like, but we just don't have the mechanism to see it. And that I do miss.
A lot. Yes.
It was great.
Yes, you talked about reviews, and did you buy books based on reviews, and what reviews do you consider to be most reliable?
Hers. I'm not kidding. If she recommends it, I'll read it. And his, if I'm in the right mood, because he reads dark, which is why I didn't get to S.A. Cosby until recently, and now I'm addicted. But we don't pay attention to blurbs. At least I don't think so.
No.
The only time I ever pay attention to blurbs usually is if it's somebody that I really like. That, you know, if Charles DeLint recommends something, I will snap that up. Or that kind of stuff, but reviews, I read blogs about books, and stuff, but I don't see a lot of actual reviews necessarily for a lot of books, unfortunately. And I don't even understand why now that I think about it, considering how many I write.
I find that if there's a totality of reviews that are all saying the same thing, as if with Cosby, I don't know whether it was NPR, New York Times, Guardian, Washington Post, whatever it was, everybody was saying the same thing. So that made me sit up and think, oh, okay, I'll try this guy. But it's really hard to have that happen. You really have to go out and search for it.
Authors who review other authors. And I'm the one who's always on Facebook. I'm always on, it's still Twitter, I don't care. I'm paying attention to what other authors are recommending. And we're out of time.
Actually, one last question. He's been patient.
The three of you all have a lot of books. What do you do with all the books that you have? Do you just continue to store them in your house, or?
Occasionally I will go through and we'll do a purge. We recently moved and we ended up taking boxes and boxes of books and driving around random neighborhoods and filling up people's little libraries.
When I left up here to go down to New Mexico, I gave away 10 boxes of books to various places, and I moved with 61 boxes of books.
102.
And I am still reading some of the books I took back from the shop at the end. And not only that, but I'm also trying to catch up on authors. For instance, she got me reading Ian Hamilton, who has a character who's a forensic accountant. And they're wonderful books. So now I'm going back and filling in with ones that I missed, because when the shop was crashing, it was hard to have the attention to read. So I stopped reading a bunch of favorite authors. Lauren Estman is another one I'm trying to catch up on. But now I'm retired, so I have time.
So we're out of time, but
There's still.
No, 5:45.
no,
Yeah.
5:45
It
was,
wasn't an hour, it was only 45 minutes.
so,
Maybe 4.
see? I'll be around for the whole conference, and I love to talk. So find me, and these two will only be around for another few minutes, so grab them while you can.
Thank you for your interest.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Once we closed the shop and were away from it, it was hard to know if it was missed. Well, we're away from it, so how do we know?
Yeah.
Please be sure that Seattle Mystery Bookshop is missed.
Well, if somebody wanted to reopen it, they have to go through us first, but if they can do that,
Or hire us. I'm willing.
I can't move again.
I'll keep you on tap. You'll be the Skype books
bookseller?
I can do that. I almost said bowl seller, but that's not quite right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So roll off.